Thank you so much for listening to Breadwinning Mums. We really appreciate your continued support over the last year, and we're happy to announce that we have published the Breadwinning Mums book. Yay! This book is based on the conversations from the Breadwinning Mums Season 1 episodes. It highlights the candid journeys of each mums, as well as a golden nugget of wisdom from their life's lessons. Now is the perfect time to give the gift of the Breadwinning Mums book to the special mums in your life or to yourself. No matter where you are in life, I'm sure the practical tips within the Breadwinning Mums book will help you take your lives just a little bit further. Limited copies available, so order yours now at breadwinningmums.com. That's breadwinningmums.com. Coming up next on the Breadwinning Mums.
How hard difficulties, how hard disappointment we have, how how we really angry with the situation, it will pass. So I think that's one of the philosophical life things that I always believe, that just keep going on and it will pass, something like that. Even though maybe we are feel struggling, but if we're trying our best, it will pass. So I think that's the thing that always comes up in my mind.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Breadwinning Mums podcast. This is a place where we debunk the myths of working mums, cheer each other on, and show the world that it's okay to be a mum and still pursue excellence in your chosen area of expertise. Today we're chatting with Ratih Arruum Listiyandini, a fellow married breadwinning mum with one son, Fatir. Ratih is a clinical psychologist, an assistant professor, researcher, and educator at University of New South Wales. She shared with us her life story about growing up in different parts of Indonesia, uprooting her family to take up a PhD in Sydney, and continuing her life's purpose to develop and expand digital mental health capabilities in Indonesia. Here we go with Ratih Arruum Listiyandini. Hello, Mbak Ratih. How are you?
Hello, good. Thank you, Mbak Jane.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Yeah.
So we met at UNSW Founders event a while ago, and we share the same background. We both came from Indonesia.
Exactly.
But for all of us listening at the moment, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you started from, and how you came to be where you are?
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Jen. I would like to share about myself first in general. So my name is Ratih Arruum Listiyandini. People usually call me Ratih or Arruum. So both names is okay for me. And actually, I'm currently completing my PhD in psychology from the UNSW Sydney. I am a wife and also a mother. I have one son, and all of my family member, husband and son, live in Sydney as well. And actually, when I started to study in 2019 for having my PhD, I didn't expect that actually my experience completing my PhD while taking care of my family is actually such a challenging but incredible experience. So I'm happy to share about my journey with you in here, Mbak Jen.
Yeah, wow, so inspiring. Can you take us to the very beginning? Whereabouts in Indonesia were you from?
Yeah, actually, like I'm from Jakarta. If I could say, is like the most, like the most common questions from people when we met from Indonesia is actually, where are you coming from? All right. So I live for like several years in Jakarta, working in Jakarta, but actually like I moved from one city to another city my life. So I was born in Surabaya until I was 10 years old. And then after that, I moved to Palembang. So it's one of the cities in South Sumatra until I graduated high school. So I completed my elementary school, junior high school, as well as the senior high school in Palembang in South Sumatra. But back then in 2005, when I decided to pursue my university degree, University of Indonesia, I started to move to Jakarta. So I live with my family there for and then after that, I get married, and then I also got a job in Jakarta as well. So maybe like 2005 until I started my PhD in Sydney. Yeah, about like 14 years I live in Jakarta. But if you asking me about where I'm originated from, it's actually like I move around like the cities. And my parents is actually not in.
Oh, they're what? Sorry,
Yeah,
it's cut
they are
off a
in
little bit.
Bandung. They are
Oh,
in Bandung.
they're from Bandung.
Yes. Actually, like
I'm from
they
Bandung
live.
too.
Oh, really? So they live in Bandung. So, because my father is actually like one of the employee in government companies, so city to another city, and the last cities that he assigned is actually in Bandung. Yes. So after pension, after retirement, after pension. So when I need to, like go back to my hometown, maybe I could say that maybe it is Bandung because my parents is there right now. Yeah, but yeah, actually I live in like many other cities as well.
Interesting. I can't hear your Surabaya accent at all.
Yeah,
So what about your extended family though? Where did your grandparents and uncles and aunties?
that's also an interesting question. It's actually like all my grandparents is actually like coming from like. So my grandparents from my mother line is from Madiun. So it's like in Java, East Java.
Yeah.
And my grandparents from my father line is coming from Solo. Solo is a part of the like, central Java.
Middle
But
Java,
but they already live in Jakarta until they pass away. So when I was a kid, when I was still like live in Surabaya and live in Palembang, I used to come back to Jakarta for meeting with my grandparents. So
I see. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So how did you find the constant move, especially when you were young? It could be a very destabilizing journey, right? How did you take it?
Yeah, actually, like I feel like challenging to making new friends in the like new places. For instance, when I was out, what I'm thinking is like just okay, just like need to trying my best to creating the environment that makes me like comfortable. So I growing up actually like with quiet like adaptability skills. So I always like learn about how to adjust and how to fit myself in the new environment.
Yep.
The good part, but behind that is actually sometimes I'm quite feel like overthinking as well when I started to making like new friends. But I'm trying my best because if I couldn't create like new friends, for instance, maybe I wouldn't be comfortable in the new environment. I couldn't have like the enjoyment during the school or during like the. That's why I was trying my best to like adaptable, like observing other people, observing like other cultures as well. who actually the good part is like that part is like a developing right way in my. Why when I moved to Sydney I also trying my best to fit on the new environment. So that's what I feel about how like to move from one to another city as well.
What about your relationship with friends? Because one of the most defining moments in
Yeah,
someone's childhood is their childhood friends, right? Was it hard
exactly.
for you, particularly growing up without that anchor or that, one person
Yeah,
or one group of people that you can rely on?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, what I could say is like it's very hard to maintain childhood friendship when I need to like move to one city to another city. But the good thing is actually like currently we already have like a social media, that's one of the tools that I used with my childhood friends back when there was no social media at all. So yeah, the challenge is actually like usually when I need to, like move to another city, then I need to like move on from my like last friendship. I use like some kind of like a gift or like a present, or we sometimes having a kind like a phone calling, or maybe like a go back before is like when I was maybe like element writing the letter. So I used to do that. But then when I started having like a new friendship, usually like my last friendship is like under like less priority. There is like a friendship. So in this regards, is what I could say is my friends is actually like someone who actually like meet with me every day. So that's maybe not every day, but the most friendship that I could make is only like a prioritize the one that is happen right now. For like
Yeah.
the one that is already like in the past, I used to now right now I used to like a connect just like for like several times a year, and maybe for me who actually like I could say that I'm quite introverted person. It's not like a big deal at all.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't also, like spending too much time with a lot of people. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I usually like feel.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And
Yeah.
so UI, University of Indonesia is, so, the
Mm-hmm,
most
mm-hmm.
prestigious university
Yeah.
in the
Mm-hmm.
country. What
Yeah.
prompted you to choose psychology?
That's very interesting questions. Actually, like the journey before I decided to be a psychologist is quite long. But what I could say is like, I think since I was high school, I always felt that I felt happy when I listened to somebody else's story.
Mm.
So I used to be what I could say like select type of like the good listener friend. So when I need to decide which type of job or which type of programs that I need to take, I always thinking that I would be very happy if I learn like something that could, improve my ability to helping others, to listening
Mm.
others.
Mm.
So that's why my first choice is actually not a psychology. Actually, a difficult one is like the medical degree. So I choose the medical degree as my first choice. But then for the second and third, I chose a psychology because of that reason. Because I want to be something that that could like a professional job that could help others. So that's why I choose like the medical degree and the psychology degree. But then after like the examination in the national level, just like a graduated on my second choice. But when I like started my psychology degree as like undergraduate students, I feel happy with that. So I continue my career until now as a psychologist.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. And so what's life like as a
Mm,
psychologist? How do you see the
mm,
world, and how do you see people's problems?
yeah. would say is during my undergraduate and master degree, during my the professional degree before I being a certified psychologist, we as like psychology students always encourage to be understanding about ourselves. So my lecturers, my seniors ask what is like the values, for instance, that you have, and what are the purpose that you want to be in the future by being like a psychologist. So what I feel like learning a psychology is actually like learning about myself first before I the interesting part is I like try my best to understand about my past experience, about my character, about my personalities, about my strength and weakness before I started to understand others. So what I feel is like before like a psychologist for others, I was like trying to be like psychologist for myself. And in some part, it actually like helping me to grow as like a better person. Then when I'm like a in the professional practice, it really helps in terms of like understanding other people's perspective, because you already in some instance like understanding as well about yourself. And but the interesting part is like when I started to have like a longer hours of like a professional practice. Currently, I've been practicing as psychologist for around maybe about like 10 years. What I found is I also like grow myself as a psychologist by learning from others' experience. So that's what I feel. Like I always say that actually psychologists, when you need to do like a counseling or like a psychotherapy, is actually like quite like challenging in terms of investment as well as like energy as well, because we used to be like a very difficult to us to listening for others for like several hours. But for being psychologist, you need to always aware with what other people like talking about some things, and something it's demanding and challenging, but I always like trying to taking about that, which is okay, I need to help this person, and I want more as well about what could I do to help them, and what could I do to more understand about them, or also like what could I learn from their experience. So I think that perspective is helping me to be to be like quiet well in terms of like maintaining my own well-being as like
That's interesting. When it comes to someone's
Mm,
resilience, how much of
mm,
it comes from nature versus
mm,
nurture?
Okay, that's a very good question, because that's also what there's always being like a like the debatable topic in the psychological science. But what I believe is actually like a human being is like the combination between nature and nurture. That's what I believe. What I mean is like nature in terms of like the genetic codes, for instance, or something that is related to the like our DNA, is also like a bring like the potential for people having like a good resilience. For instance, like many of research found that actually like in the research from like twin studies or something that is coming from the longitudinal studies or like a cohort studies like between generations, they found some of the like pattern of the like the mental health in the family. For instance, it's like if the families have some kind of issues related to the like a mood disorder, like depression or maybe like the bipolar disorder and something like that, there are like a big possibilities that in their like a below generation would have that kind of issue as well. That's what we found in the like nature perspective. However, the nurture also very like contributing as well. in terms of like providing like a stability, like a safety, and then like the security. So that's why what I always like suggest to my clients who have like the, like the risk factor about having like the mental health problems, they should understand about what kind of the things that could also like affect, so that risk factors can minimize compared to the protective factors. So by ensuring like the good parenting skills, and then like healing about themselves before they started to being ready for having like a family, for instance, it somehow could minimize the risk factors that comes from the nature perspective. So that's what I believe about the dynamics developments of like a human being in terms of like the mental health resilience.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
So you've actually been involved in various organizations in Indonesia before you came here. One of them is Ibunda, which is I love. So it's basically a digital consultation provided for women in Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to ask, what's the demand like? Because the Indonesia that I left in the 90s were still this conservative country where conversations surrounding mental health or even relationship breakdowns are still a taboo type of topics. So can you tell me a little bit more about what the landscape is like right now?
Yeah. Thank you very much for like asking that questions, because what I felt is right now is understanding and the literacy about the mental health issues among Indonesian is like growing in the like right path, in my opinion, especially for the one coming from like millennial and Gen Z, which is they are more updated about what is like the concept of like mental health, and then they also more understand about what are the things that we need to consider related to the mental health issues, as well as about like help seeking among people. So that's why what I feel like currently in most like big cities, like having like an education in terms of like the mental health issues, or asking the professional help is something that is like not like a taboo anymore. However, maybe in the like the older generation, as well as to the community, there is unreachable with the social media. It is could be something that still being like an issue. For instance, is what I could find is like in some several parts of Indonesia, especially in the rural area, there are some people who still believe that actually like a mental health problems could coming from something that is like more like a magical, or like spiritual, like they are like being being like a possessed, for instance. And so that's why for the one that have like a very like severe mental illness, like a psychotic disorder, who have like the hallucination and then like a delusions, most of people in rural area, they choose to go to the like spiritual healer instead of like they go to the like the psychiatrist. It's still being like an issue in the rural area, but hopefully like with more like education happen in the like many parts of Indonesia. And I think that's also like the homework from the government, I think, how to reach out more education, and also like a like a building the literacy of like a people who are like not living in the like a big cities.
Interesting. What about in corporate level? Has mental health been embedded into the way companies see the well-being of their employees?
Yeah, the good things is what I found on right now in Indonesia. There are program. There is like a served by company, which is like employee assistance programs, especially on the like the big company, like the multinational company, or like the national company, international company. They usually provided that service in Indonesia as well. And I think that's like a good signals that in terms of like the mental health and being, some of these companies already like care about that by creating like the employee assistance program, which is that kind of program is something that like having like like the counselor and also like the psychologist for the people who like for the employee that really need the most of the service. However, I think like in most of the company, especially like the one that is, you know, maybe like a middle or like a low, you know, like a low income companies, which is not prioritize the mental health, they still like very prioritize much more about like profit, productivity in terms of like, you know, like what I could say is something that maybe in Indonesia we could say that there's not much company who take care of the like the work-life balance of the like employee, right? So that's why like some of the like a very like, you know, like very common issues what I found in Indonesia is actually like people need to like work until like long hours without any like a good compensation. It still happened, but some of the companies, the one that I told you, like already have some kind of, you know, employee assistance program. So I think that's about like a 50-50. I think like we need to still on the way to, you know, like to bring the mental health issue be a priority in all of the company in Indonesia.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of things going on for you back home in
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia. Why the move here? What instigated the change?
Yeah, actually, like what I could say is because in Indonesia, I was like working as like a lecturer in one of the like private universities in Jakarta, which is YRC University Jakarta, and they encourage their like a lecturer to having like a PhD degree. So that's why all of like the junior lecturers in my uni is like provided with the opportunity to applying like scholarship, for instance, for having like PhD. So that's why I decided to having my PhD started from 2018. Then I think that's about 5 years after my academic career in my university, in URC University. I started the process by understanding about what is like PhD lives look like, and then what I would like to do in my PhD research. Then I also like you know, like explored about professors and researchers in university that could be my supervisors. And what I found is like it's not as I thought, which is not every like a professors would like to like respond email from like strangers. And but the good thing is actually like my professor right now in UNSW, when I like started to sending her an email, like just about like a couple of hours she replied, and she gave me an opportunity to having like interview, which is that's what of the life-changing experience, because from that then I've got an opportunity to pursue my PhD in psychology in UNSW, and then I started to a scholarship with Indonesian government. So yeah, I think that's the process. The main reason is because for like a career development. However, what I feel like during like this PhD journey really helped me to learn more about myself, not only about the science of the psychology, but about myself, about how I handle like difficulties as well as like a challenge while like pursuing my PhD. That's what I think like a chance myself currently for like during my PhD journey.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
awesome. And you're finishing, you're about to graduate soon, right?
Exactly. I just like
Congratulations.
thank you. I've just completed my examination.
Yeah.
Examiners coming from European university give like you know, like a good appreciations about my thesis, which is that's very important to, you know, like about my work. So during like these 4 years, I've already like done about like 4 series of studies, which is it's not like a short, very long journey with a lot of time for like a dedication for like a writing, for like a collecting data, and then collaborating with many stakeholders, which is the result was really good. and I'm grateful for that. So I'm now like waiting for the official conferral from the university, and then I will like have like the graduation ceremony maybe in May. Yeah.
Woohoo! That sounds really good. What's your thesis about?
So I did a research
Yeah.
on developing a culturally adapted online mindfulness intervention for university students in Indonesia. The reason is actually like because like accessible mental health service is like still very limited in Indonesia. And I found that like the digital technology could be one of the like tools that potentially bridging like the gap of the mental health service. So that's why I decided to do like this research to helping more young people in Indonesia to have like a better mental health using digital technology.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay. It's amazing that you're able to do that, but
Mm.
you're not
Mm.
only just a psychologist, you're also a
Yeah.
mom and a wife,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that part of your life?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. So actually, like currently, my son is 10 years old, which is what I could say is like the transition to go to the like a pre-teenagers, right?
Yeah.
But what I found is like I'm very grateful that I have a husband that really like supportive in taking care of my son, which is it's really helpful during my PhD study, because I think I couldn't like I couldn't be like a survive if I don't have any like a support system at all in Australia. But the good thing, because my husband is really like supportive. So for instance, when I need to do like my research or like a writing, or I have a deadline, he's the one who will like taking care of my son. And the other things what I could say is like giving an understanding to our kids, which is here I'm trying to like a building understanding as well to my son. His name is like Fatir. So I told Fatir since the beginning of my study that I will have a kind of like the long working hours, which is sometimes I may be like come home late, or maybe I need to like even at home, maybe I could be like very busy in front of my laptop. So if you need to play, you could trying to like finding others, finding other things in the home, or maybe using your gadget as well, your laptop as well, to do something that you would like to do. So I think like building an understanding to our like kids, building understanding to my son, and then asking for help to my husband is something that is like a very crucial in this PhD journey. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How did your husband take it when you've decided that you're going to move the whole family here?
That's actually like a very difficult decisions, because like for the first time like he also like quiet reluctance as well about whether like he was thinking that whether we are going to like survive financially, for instance, like living in the like new country, because like Sydney also like a very like a
Very
very
expensive country.
yes, very
City. Yeah.
expensive, and very like like demanding in terms of like the accommodation cost and everything. But then the good thing is like I started to negotiate with him and talking that maybe this kind of experience could be something that help us as like a family, like a growing better, instead of like like just thinking about like the negative side, which is we need to like maybe work harder to survive in Sydney, but maybe it in terms of like a growing and developing as like a family member, maybe it's something that is important. Because if we just live just like enjoy our living in Jakarta without any like like without
Challenges.
yes any challenges, very close with our like extended family,
Yeah.
maybe we wouldn't like grow up as like a person and as like a family. So I think that's good opportunity for us like together as family to like trying to live in the like new country. So for like several months, maybe it is quite hectic in terms of, adapting with the new situations and then finding a new job and everything. But I'm very grateful that currently my husband already have like a stable job and career as well in Australia. So he's a programmer. He's working in one of the logistic company in Sydney. And I think even though there are like a lot of things that he needs to do in the office, but the good thing is he still could have time as well to support and also help me to take care of my son.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Again, Indonesia, the Indonesia that I left in the 90s was still a very close,
Mm,
I wouldn't say close-minded, but it's still a conservative type of
mm,
society where
mm, mm, mm.
even women our age are
Yeah.
being encouraged to be a stay-at-home mom, look after the
Yeah.
kids. Did
Yes.
you have a
Yes.
little bit of pushback from maybe even your husband or your
Mm,
immediate family, your
mm.
parents, about when you wanted to come here? And did they ever
Yeah,
say,
yeah, yeah.
what are you doing? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I think that's good questions, but I think one of the privilege that I have is like I grow up from the family who really like supported in terms of education, which is I think that's like good things. So when I decided to like pursue my career as like a lecturer as an academia, my own parents already like really supportive with that. So when I asked to them, so is it okay for me to like study abroad for having my PhD? They don't have any complaints at all, and they're really like supportive. And for my husband's family, the good thing is also they also not like having like a complaints at all when he decided to move in as well in Sydney, because I think he also like a grown up from family who also like move to one city to other cities, and they feel like actually like having like experience living in outside of our like a comfort zone is actually like helping them to grow as well. So yeah, that's the privilege that I have. So I don't have any, like a pushback from my
Yeah.
environment. All of them are like a very supportive in terms of like my career as well as my education as well as like a woman. However, they always like my mother especially as well as always remind me that even though I have like a good career and also pursue higher education, family could be still need to be like a prioritized. So that's why I was like trying as best as I can to always like take care of my family while I'm also like completing my study.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And how has Fatir grown over the past 4 years?
Yeah, I think it was like amazing experience for me as a parent looking him like a grow day by day. So when the first time we started our life in Sydney, he couldn't speak English at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's like a very like a clueless for him in the very beginning of his journey as a student. But I could say he's also like a resilient kid. So he's trying his best to adapt with the new situation. What I could remember is like his teacher in the year one said to me like in the first like several weeks what my son did is actually like incredible in terms of like learning from observing. So he started to know like how to the instruction, what is like the instruction of his teacher by observing his friend. So what his friends do, he was trying to like copy them. So
Yeah.
that's how he learned how to understand about the instruction for the first time. And then with more exposure, with school in Sydney, he started to develop his skill as well in terms of like communication in English, which is what I could say right now. That's my homework to like switch on his preference to speak English with his
Yeah.
preference to speak Indonesia, because currently he has more preference to speak English to me, but yes, I
Yeah.
was trying my best to always speak Indonesia at home, at
Yeah.
least, so he wouldn't forget at all with bahasa Indonesia, with Indonesian language.
Does he speak like a bullet?
Yes, exactly. He copy all the accents, as well as even he, like to criticize my English, like, "Mommy,
He
your
corrects you,
pronunciation
girl.
is wrong," something like that. And what do you mean? Like, he doesn't understand about what we're talking about.
Oh dear. Yeah, my kids are doing that to my
Yeah.
parents.
Okay.
Okay. And so what's next for you?
Yeah.
You're about to graduate, and
Yes.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
once
Mm,
that's finished in
yeah.
May,
Yeah.
what's next for you
Yeah.
and your family?
Okay. So my plan is, because I've got Indonesian government scholarship, so I should for good to Indonesia.
You have to go
So
back.
maybe like in the in the middle of this year, I will like go back and continue my career as a lecturer in Indonesia. To to like fulfill my promise actually, because Indonesian government already like provided like many support in terms of like the financial incentive during my stay in here in Sydney. So I think it's the time for me to go back to Indonesia as like a lecturer. But maybe after several years, there's also maybe like a possibility that I could also maybe will have like a career in other countries as well. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, I think
Yep.
the short goals right now is like having like a graduation ceremony and then go back first to Indonesia.
How's your husband taking it? The fact that you have to go
Because
back.
yeah, because he's already have like a quite like stable and a career job in here. Uh, right now we decided that he could continue his career and job in Sydney. So maybe we will have like several years of like a long distance marriage before we decided whether maybe I move back to Sydney or maybe he move back to Indonesia. So let's see how it goes. I wouldn't know what will be happen in the
Wow.
next
Yeah.
several years, but that's
Yeah.
what we plan.
Wow. Okay. And how is Fatir? What's going to be the arrangement
Yeah,
with Fatir then?
because Fatir right now is already like a five in the five grade, right? In the year five.
Mm,
So
mm.
I and my husband decided that he will completing his primary school in here in Sydney. And
Yeah.
after he graduated from his primary school, let's see how it goes. If maybe he would like to live with me in Jakarta for his high school, then maybe he will go back with me after he graduated. But if he decided to maybe he more enjoy his life in here in Sydney, that maybe there's also another possibility that he could also like completing his high school here. But I think the short goal right now is like let him graduate it first, and then
Mm.
let's think about it later in the next maybe like 2 years.
Wow. Okay. Are you ready? Like mentally, psychologically, are you ready to be
Actually, I'm
apart
not
from your?
ready, but I
Yeah.
should do it because sometimes like when we decide something like a big deal like this with my husband, that's something that will like influence each of us as like a family member. We should think not only about like the current situation or what about what we prefer to do in
Mm,
terms of
mm.
like emotionally in terms of like whether we feel like we'll be sad or not or something like that. But we need also like to plan in the future about what our goals for like Fatir's education, for my career, for his career as well, for our like retirement later. So everything should be like considered. So yeah, even though I know that's not like a easy decision, but I
Mm.
think that's the best decision that we could think right now. That might
Yeah.
be it could be like a changes after like for several times when we
Mm.
feel like it's better for us to like being like full family again in one place. Maybe we will like change our decision, but yeah, we will like still trying to our best to see what will be happen in the future with this decision.
Yeah, it is always a
Yeah,
constant struggle, isn't it, between finding out
exactly,
what's best for your family and what's best
exactly.
for you
Yeah,
personally as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
I moved
Mm-hmm.
here when I was
Mm-hmm.
12, but my parents were
Mm-hmm.
still living in Indonesia at the
Okay.
time. So
Yeah.
we were having like that long distance relationship as well for many
Ah,
years, actually. They only
yeah,
moved
yeah, yeah.
here when
Mm-hmm.
I finished high school. So a good part of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
my high school years were spent apart.
Yeah.
It's I think from a child's perspective, it's built a
Mm-hmm.
type of resilience in you, and you are
Mm-hmm.
forced to be independent at a very early
Mm-hmm.
age.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
funnily enough, I never felt like our relationship as a family were severed, even though we didn't
Mm.
spend every day together.
Okay.
I
Okay.
still felt like my parents were
Mm-hmm.
there for me.
Yeah. 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 That's good
Mm.
perspective, which is, I think,
Yeah, so
it's not
it's
as bad
yeah,
as people
yeah,
think about being, long distance
yeah.
family relationship, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no. As a child, you just get on with
Mm-hmm.
things
Mm-hmm.
and you
Exactly.
adapt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
don't know. As a
Mm-hmm.
parent, I would feel sometimes looking back, I felt like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, my son is now about to turn 8, which was the
Mm-hmm.
same age
Mm-hmm.
that my
Mm-hmm.
younger brother was when he moved here
Mm-hmm.
without our parents, and I felt like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can do that as a parent, But
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it is what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Let's see. So, how did you live when you are like a child without your parents here? You live with other family members here, or like how is it going?
Yeah, the first year I lived with my auntie. I have a lot of aunties and uncles from my dad's side.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
first
yeah.
year I lived with
Mm-hmm.
one of them. And
Mm-hmm.
then second year onwards, my oldest brother was going
Mm-hmm.
to uni here in
Ah,
Sydney.
I
And so we
see.
moved to
Yeah,
be closer
yeah,
to his uni.
yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
from that year onwards, it was just us, the kids.
Wow, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty crazy looking back, thinking about, how
Yeah,
how
yeah.
I parent my children. It's like, come on, this is not much. I'm not
Yeah,
asking
yeah.
for much. Yeah. Okay. So one of your works revolved around mindfulness and
Yes.
resilience.
Yeah.
I was
Mm-hmm.
listening to this conversation with Adam Grant and Brene Brown when they were talking
Mm-hmm.
about mindfulness, and
Mm-hmm.
Adam said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to along the lines of being mindful about your own actions and your own emotions can also have these unintended consequences, because you think that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's good to be mindful because you are more self-aware of your own actions
Mm-hmm.
and emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes being mindful does not necessarily take you out of a situation
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
didn't want.
Yeah.
Sometimes it actually prolongs because you're so mindful. It can also enable, people that are involved in the situation
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to continue with their
Yeah.
unwanted
Yeah. Yeah.
actions, right? Do you
Mm-hmm.
do you have anything to say to
Mm-hmm.
that?
That's interesting point. But what I could find with mindfulness practice is actually it helps us as well. In my experience, by practicing mindfulness by myself, or also like teaching mindfulness to others, is sometimes when we started to like understanding about ourselves like more using like the mindfulness practice, uh some of the like what we could say is like some of the negative thinking could also as well like a more like a more prone to be happen in terms of, okay, I'm aware that I have this negative thinking, so is it bad or something like that. So it's like started to like by observing our mind, it could trigger like another anxiety as well. So that's why like during like the mindfulness practice, I usually like ask them to like instead of evaluating about how our mind content or like what is like a behind of like our mind, we also need to understanding more about the values or that be our like a priority. For instance, it's like instead of just like a being mindful with everyday things, everyday activities that we do, we should all trying to be mindful about what we are going to do with our understanding about ourselves. So I think it needs to be like a dialogue, another dialogue as well with people, with with ourselves about what we are going to like to do, instead of just enjoying our moment in the present moment, but also understanding more about what are our purpose as like a human being who will like helping us to do like more action instead of just like thinking about like the present moment. I think that's what I'm thinking about like the the positive and the challenges of having a kind like the mindfulness practice or mindfulness skills in our life. So instead of just focusing like enjoying in the present moment, being aware with our thoughts, but also like understanding more deep down inside of that about what we are going to do based on the values that we really think that is important to our life, which is, I think, with mindfulness, it helps us to understand more about like that aspect. So when we decided to like decide to do something, we already aware about what is like the consequences behind that action.
Yeah, I love it. So
yeah.
I think so. A part of mindfulness is not just trying to visit where you are and being aware, but also using that understanding to then propel your actions or your dialogues with others going forward.
Yes,
that's the missing, or not the missing part, but some of the things that are not often talked about, because when people talk about mindfulness, it's about meditation, it's about self-reflection, but then the so what piece is still missing. Like, so what do you do with all that information to affect your surroundings?
Exactly. That's what
Okay.
I'm thinking is important.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. You also did a few studies, and especially one that says that talks about gratitude, loneliness, and psychological distress to uni students during COVID. If there were some upsides of COVID, based on your studies, what would that be?
I think it helps us to understand about how this world works. I think that's what I feel. Like in terms of like sometimes people tend to like have like a more control about their life, which is in some extent it's good, but in another extent is not really good at all, because for instance during like the COVID situation we couldn't control anything. Like the pandemic is something that is like outside like or like beyond our control. And during like the COVID situation, people some of the people started like to understand that not everything that they could in their life is something that is like under their control. So people will understand about like the values of like let it go, and then they started to just trying to enjoying like the moments, every moments that they still have currently. And what I could say as well is like surviving from the COVID also helping us to be more like a resilience in terms of facing like the difficulties, the changes, and about how to adapt from like the social isolation, from how to adapt with what I could say, the social distancing, what we could say during like the COVID-19 pandemic. And what I feel as well is actually like even though people like tend to be more like lonely, some of them also like growing their skills in terms of like other things as well. Like maybe most of my friend like started their content in YouTube, or maybe in podcast and everything, like during like the pandemic situation, which is I think that's like one of the upsides like having like a pandemic situation on that time.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So I want to go back to the concept of a breadwinning mum, which you are, of course. Are there any specific rituals that you do as a person or as a family to make it easier?
I think I will start that it is about mindset and values. That's very important, I think, in my life. So when I started to do like an action, or I decided to make some like a big decision in my life as like a mom, as like a wife, as like a student, as well as like a career woman, I always think about what are the values that I could like that I could achieve with this kind of action, which is what I feel like currently I'm quite stable in terms of like mental well-being, because I always believe that what I'm doing right now is something that is like valuable for my family, for my communities, for myself. and my orientation is also like a growing as like a person. That also part of the values that I hold right now, which is I bring that values as well during like the decision making for my family, for my son. That's one of the like things that I think is like very important. So before you taking like an action or like making like a decision, it's very good for you to know about what you will achieve with this one, in terms of what are like the values of life, about the purpose, like what you are going to pursue with this kind of activity, something like that. It's very important to help us to keep, like a balance. So when everything happens, like the challenges, difficulties happen, then I will like go back again on the right track, because I remember that this is something that is important to fight, something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
often do you readdress your values and your purpose? Because it changes over time, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think based on my experience, like some of the like basic values about life is not changing like so much in my life, in terms of like how important is, like for instance, like the spirituality, how important of like other people's well-being, for instance, and how importance of like our role, for instance, as like a family member. Something that is not like a change so much is our like a very like a basic values. But in terms
Yeah.
of like setting like a goals about what importance on that periods is sometimes is like a reassess and reevaluate, like for instance like this, like once in a year, like in the like beginning of the year, or maybe when there are like a life-changing situation happen. For instance, maybe if I go back to Indonesia, there are couple or several things that I need to adjust as well. Yeah.
Mm, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. You mentioned before one of the well the one of the key negotiation
Yeah.
tools that
Mm,
you
mm, mm.
that you used with your husband was being able to grow as a family by moving to
Yes,
Australia.
yes,
If you
yes.
have to choose just one way that you have grown as a family unit by
Mm-hmm.
moving to a different country with a new language in a new
Mm-hmm.
environment, what would that
Mm-hmm.
be?
Something that is the question means like something that is not like a moving to another country or
No,
aside.
so how have you grown as a family?
Oh, okay. How I feel like I've grown as like a family.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that decision. I
Mm.
think like we grown so much in terms of the most basic one is like the our independent skill, which is me as a mother, maybe in Indonesia, maybe I still like really depends on the my assistants to finishing all like the domestic roles, domestic like skills, like washing the dishes or something like that. But currently, I and my husband should be more independent to handling all the house chores, which is on that why we also like growing our skill to negotiate about what people what he will do and what I will do on that
Yeah.
day. So what
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
the responsibilities that we are going to do for like the house chores, as well as for my son as well, like how to like how to be more independent when his mom and dad still like busy when doing like other things, like doing like the house chores and everything. So that's one of the like very obvious skills that I think we develop. And then another one is also like developing cultural intelligence, which is understanding about, okay, there are like some part of like a culture in Australia from like a Western society that might be not fit very well with our like values and culture from
Mm.
Indonesia and Eastern society. However,
Mm.
how to like to deal with that in terms of like negotiate, maybe like assimilate as well, or maybe like understanding about why people in Western society, for instance, more like individualistic compared to us
Mm.
from Indonesian community.
Mm.
And then I think understanding cultures of others, not only from Western societies, but also maybe like a cultures of other countries. Because in Australia, we are very multicultural, right? When we could
Mm.
also meet people from India, from like China, maybe from other countries as well. It will also like help our skill to more understand and tolerable with all the differences that we have. I think that's also part of, like the things that grow a lot. And then what I feel personally is actually like I think I tried my best to have like a better emotional regulation skills, because with all the things, all the
Really?
challenges.
You still have to do that? You're the expert. I would have thought you've reached the level.
Yeah, but sometimes cranky, and I have a lot of job needs to do. I don't have any more people to support my, my activities. Then yes, I should know how to, like release my own stress emotionally, and then to, regulate my emotions, so I didn't like get, getting too emotional or getting too mad with the situations.
What do you do? What's your go-to tips?
I don't know, but I think the one that teach me about that is actually like having like space for my time is important. Like, like sometimes we are like a very busy, do something for others, for our job, but we don't have any time for myself. So I think like having me time for myself is important to, like gaining more energy again. And when there are some triggering situations, I try to, the best one is like try to, like hold my breath, like managing the flow of my breath. That's very practical things that what I could do when I get too anxious, or like getting angry about something. So I could like still manage my reactions, how I should like deal with that difficult situation.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned about cultural differences before. I was just wondering, have there been any instances where you had to challenge your own beliefs and values since coming here? And have you changed any of your values, especially from a mother's perspective?
Yeah. I don't think maybe me as an adult, I don't think I like a change a lot in terms of like values. However, maybe I'm more like, like a more tolerant right now with the critical thinking that my sons have. Maybe in Indonesia our culture is like a
Yeah,
kid
zero
need to always,
tolerance for talking
exactly, zero
back.
tolerance, need to be always polite, respectful, and everything
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
to their parents, and there's no complaints and something like that. But currently, because he's grown up with the environment that cultivate
Yeah,
his, like a critical thinking, like how to, like negotiate with something. So yeah, I need to deal with that. So I
yeah,
think that's one of the things that I need to adjust as well.
yeah. Okay. In terms of all of your work and all of your studies,
Mm, mm,
if there was just one area of study that you have done
mhm,
that people want to be more aware of or remember you for, what would that
mhm.
be?
I think I always passionate with the mental health and resilience. So I think that's the topics, or like the theme of my like most of my research is about. However, like currently I started to develop my experience and skill in digital mental health service, which is, that's the thing that I think I would like to pursue on the next several years. So my commitment is, when I go back to Indonesia, I would like to develop like a better system in terms of like a digital mental health services for all people in Indonesia. That's what I would like to like pursue. But in general, I think I'm always want to have like an expertise in the mental health and resilience research.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How effective do you think that would be in terms of delivering mental health advice through digital means? Because yes,
Yeah.
I can understand and appreciate the fact that if it's digital, then it's always accessible, especially with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
integration of
Yeah.
AI now.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
automate a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at
Mm-hmm.
our deepest level, we still yearn for that human to human interaction, just like what we have
Exactly.
now.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you
Mm-hmm.
marry the two?
Yeah, actually what I found is like a digital device would be very helpful as like not in terms of like changing the human by human interaction, but for like being like the complementary of the service as well. So what I found is like in my research in my PhD, the one that is also helpful is not only like by doing the practice using like the digital intervention, but also like having someone else to support us. At least when you need any help in terms of whether you do the right practice or not, there are someone who could like support you with that. I think so that's why like the value of like human interaction, which is still like very important. However, in terms of like accessibility and scalability of the intervention, I still believe that the digital intervention could be something that could like a complement the other conventional psychotherapy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I wanted to go back to that really young Ratih, the one that
Mm,
was about to leave Surabaya to Palembang.
mm, mhm,
If you could
mhm,
give yourself one advice,
mhm,
knowing all of the wealth of wisdom and knowledge that you know now, what would
mhm.
that be?
To the young Rati, okay, maybe I could say that maybe if like there would be like someone else or like other kids also have like the same experience with me, or what I could say to my young age version is I will tell to her that it's not an easy experience, that you need like to adjust yourself with new situation and new environment, but that skill is very important for your future, because in the future there might be like a bigger opportunity, and then a bigger a chance for you to meet people not only from different culture in terms of like different cities, but also maybe like different countries. Like maybe you will live in the like overseas, something that maybe not be imaginable before when you were like young. But adaptability, resilience, and then the like understanding people is like very important skill that you need to develop. Maybe that's the thing that I would say to her.
Yeah, awesome. Has there been a moment in time in your marriage where you were really tested as a person and
Mm-hmm.
having had to not just rely on your own rational understanding of how the mind
Mm-hmm.
works and psychology and human
Mm-hmm.
interaction, but
Mm-hmm.
you would have to really dig deep and rely on your faith, maybe, and your core beliefs? And
Mm-hmm.
without
Mm-hmm.
going into the specifics of what happened, maybe if you could share the journey
Mm-hmm.
and what you've learned throughout that moment.
Yeah, actually, I think I've already have married for about 11 years, which is like a long journey and process as well. And I feel like being a wife, like a growing as like a husband and wife, as like a unit of family, like a meeting with people that growing up with like very different experiences is something that is like not easy at all. But I always believe that because I decided to commit with this marriage, because I believe that our marriage is something that could bring us to the like a goodness in the future. For instance, my core belief is coming from like Islamic belief, which is after we pass away, we will have like another life in the afterlife, something like that. So I was like trying my best, my husband as well, like how like to like negotiate with every difficulties, differences that we have. Sometimes we get like an argument as well, or maybe we get have a kind of like a conflict as well. But then I understand trying to like do like self reflection in the in in the moment about what I could do better to make our relationship is like a stronger and like a better. So not like not ruining our relationship, but how to make our like a conflict and anything to be like to be an asset to our like a journey together as our like new skills, maybe new skills development in the future, something that is
Okay.
uh that is like a happen during like all this journey.
So using that conflict situation in order to
Yeah.
grow again, similar
Yes.
to how
Yeah.
you see the
Yes.
transition to
Exactly. Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting. All right. And the question that I always ask all moms is, what is your
Mhm.
alpha mom song? So if you have the deadline looming at work, your study is going to finish soon, and your son is giving you trouble as well, what one song do you play on the back of your mental mind to make it through the week?
Mm, I think the one that is like a very common happen in my mind is like this gonna will pass, something like that. It
Yeah.
will pass. So
Yeah.
yeah, because I already learned a lot during my journey as an adult, that how hard difficulties, how hard like disappointment we have, how like how we really angry with the situation, it will pass. So I think that's one of the like philosophical life things that I always like believe, that just keep going on and it will pass, something like that. Even though maybe we are like feel like struggling, but if we're trying like our best, it will pass. So I think that's the thing that always like comes up in my mind.
Yeah, that is awesome. All right, Mbak Ratih, or I should
Mhm.
say Dr. Listiyandini, thank you so much for being
Yeah,
here and
thank
sharing
you.
your time
Yeah,
and wisdom with
yeah.
us. Best of luck with the next chapter, and
Yes.
I'd very
Mm-hmm.
much like to
Mm-hmm.
stay in touch.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Majen. Also, hope all the success is for you in the future.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. See you then.
See you.
This episode of The Breadwinning Mums was produced by me, Jane Lim, and our theme music was produced by Sam McNally. We recorded this episode on the lens of dark people who have passed their parenting story for generations. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and thank them for caring for country. Connect with us through LinkedIn or Instagram at Breadwinning Mums. Until next time.